The camera crew waited 3 hours outside that Istanbul cafe, and when Elcin Sangu finally emerged alone at 2 in the morning, her eyes told a story that tabloids would spend years trying to decode. What nobody knew then was that just 48 hours earlier, she had made a phone call that would end one of Turkish television's most beloved real-life romances forever. This is the untold story of Baris Arduc and Elcin Sangu, two actors who captivated millions with their on-screen chemistry in Kiralik Ask, only to have their real-life relationship crumble in ways that still haunt their fans today. What really happened behind the closed doors of their relationship? Why did two people who seemed so perfect together suddenly go silent about each other? And what role did fame, family pressure, and a single controversial project play in tearing them apart? The year was 2015 when Baris Arduc walked onto the set of Kiralik Ask. He was a rising star, handsome and talented, but still searching for that breakthrough role. Elcin Sangu had already tasted success, her previous work establishing her as one of Turkey's most promising young actresses. Neither of them could have predicted what would happen when the cameras started rolling. Their characters, Defne and Omer, were supposed to fall in love on screen. What the directors didn't plan for was the electricity that crackled between these two actors every single time they shared a scene. Production assistants noticed it first. The way Baris would arrive on set an hour early on days when Elcin was scheduled to film. How their conversations between takes would stretch so long that directors had to gently remind them to prepare for the next scene. There was something genuine happening, something that transcended the boundaries of professional acting. Crew members would later recall in interviews how the entire atmosphere on set would shift when these two were working together. It wasn't just chemistry. It was magnetic. By the time Kiralik Ask premiered in June 2015, audiences were already sensing what everyone on set had witnessed. Social media exploded with speculation. Were they dating? The longing looks, the tender touches, the way they seemed to communicate without words, it all felt too real to be merely acting. Fan accounts dedicated to the couple multiplied daily. The hashtag Barsin, a combination of their names, began trending regularly. But both actors remained frustratingly silent about their personal relationship, fueling even more curiosity. Here's what we know for certain. Throughout 2015 and into 2016, Baris and Elcin were inseparable at public events. They attended award shows together. They were photographed at the same restaurants, often leaving within minutes of each other, a classic move to avoid paparazzi confirmation. Their co-stars from Kiralik Ask would give interviews with knowing smiles, offering cryptic comments about the special bond between their lead actors. The evidence was circumstantial but overwhelming. Then came the social media breadcrumbs. Baris would post a photo from a specific location, and hours later, Elcin would share an image with an unmistakably similar background. They began following the same obscure accounts. Their Instagram stories would feature identical coffee cups, same books, matching bracelets. These weren't coincidences. These were messages to those paying attention. A private language between two people trying to maintain some mystery while acknowledging the truth. The fan community went into overdrive analyzing every interaction. When Kiralik Ask won multiple awards, the acceptance speeches became case studies in unspoken emotion. The way Baris' eyes would find Elcin in the crowd. How her face would light up with unmistakable pride when his name was called. Body language experts were brought onto talk shows to dissect their posture, their proximity, the unconscious mirroring that happens between people deeply connected. But something shifted in late 2016. Observers who had been tracking their every move noticed a change. The social media coordination became less frequent. They stopped appearing at events together. When asked about each other in interviews, their answers became shorter, more professional, stripped of the warmth that had previously colored their responses. Something had happened, and both were working hard to keep it hidden. Industry insiders began whispering about tension. One rumor suggested that Baris' family had concerns about the relationship. In Turkish culture, family approval carries enormous weight, and according to unconfirmed reports, there were reservations about the couple's future together. These rumors have never been verified by either party, and we must be clear that this remains speculation. However, multiple sources from within their social circles hinted at familial complications that put pressure on the relationship. Another theory emerged about career trajectories. By 2017, both actors were receiving offers for major projects. Elcin was being courted for dramatic roles that would showcase her range beyond romantic comedies. Baris was in discussions for projects that would require extended filming in different countries. Success, the very thing that had brought them together, might have been pulling them apart. The demands of two ascending careers in the intensely competitive Turkish entertainment industry created scheduling conflicts that became increasingly difficult to navigate. Then there was the matter of privacy. From the beginning, both Baris and Elcin had tried to maintain some boundary between their public personas and private lives. They never officially confirmed their relationship, which meant they also couldn't officially define its evolution. This decision, while protecting them from some scrutiny, also created a prison of sorts. How do you process a breakup when you've never publicly acknowledged the relationship? How do you mourn something the world only suspected existed? The most telling evidence came in early 2017. Baris began filming a new project, and for the first time since Kiralik Ask, he was noticeably different. Colleagues described him as withdrawn, focused entirely on work, avoiding personal questions. Elcin, meanwhile, threw herself into a rigorous schedule, accepting back-to-back projects that left little time for anything else. Those close to both actors recognized the behavior, the desperate busyness of people trying to outrun their feelings. By mid-2017, the silence became deafening. They no longer acknowledged each other on social media. Birthday posts that might have been expected never materialized. When Kiralik Ask was mentioned in interviews, both would praise the project and their co-stars in general terms, but the specific, warm mentions of each other had vanished. The absence was more powerful than any statement could have been. What fans found most heartbreaking was watching old interviews and promotional material from Kiralik Ask. The joy between them had been so evident, so pure. In one particularly poignant clip that resurfaced online, Baris was asked what he admired most about working with Elcin. His answer, given with such sincerity, talked about her dedication, her kindness, how she made everyone around her better. Watching it years later, knowing what had been lost, gave his words a tragic dimension. Then came 2018, and what many fans consider the final confirmation of the split. Baris began appearing with Gupsozi, a successful actress and screenwriter. Their relationship seemed different from the start, more open, more publicly acknowledged. When they married in 2021, it was a beautiful ceremony that made headlines across Turkey. For Baris, it represented a new chapter. For fans still hoping for a Barsin reunion, it was the closing of a door. Elcin's path took a different direction. She remained notoriously private about her personal life, dedicating herself to increasingly complex and challenging roles. In rare interviews where her past was mentioned, she spoke about growth, about learning, about the importance of timing in life. She never specifically addressed Baris or their rumored relationship, but her words carried the weight of experience. She talked about loving her work, about finding fulfillment in her craft, about the peace that comes from accepting life's changes. There's a particular interview from 2019 that fans dissect endlessly. Elcin was asked about her most transformative professional experience. She paused for a long moment before answering, and when she did, she talked about Kiralik Ask. She described it as a project that changed her life in ways she's still discovering. She spoke about connections that shape us, experiences that define us, and the bittersweet nature of beautiful things that don't last forever. She never said Baris' name, but everyone understood who she was talking about. The question that haunts their fans is simple but profound. What specifically ended it? Was there a single moment, a particular argument, a definitive breaking point? Or was it the slow erosion that happens when two people, despite caring for each other, find themselves on incompatible paths? Those close to the situation have never revealed specifics, maintaining a loyalty to both actors that's admirable but frustrating for those seeking closure. One theory that gained traction involves a project offer that came to Elcin in late 2016. According to this unconfirmed account, She was offered a major role in a series that would film extensively in Europe. It was a career-defining opportunity, but it would require her to be away from Turkey for extended periods. The rumor suggests that this created a fundamental conflict about priorities and futures. Again, this has never been confirmed, and we present it only as one of many theories that circulated. What we can say with certainty is that both actors have spoken, in general terms, about the challenges of maintaining relationships in the entertainment industry. Baris has mentioned in interviews the difficulty of balancing personal life with professional demands. Elcin has talked about the sacrifice required for artistic growth. These aren't specific admissions, but they paint a picture of the pressures both faced. The passage of time has brought perspective. Both Baris and Elcin have continued to build impressive careers. They've grown, evolved, taken on roles that challenge them in new ways. Baris found love again and built a family. Elcin has become one of Turkey's most respected actresses, known for choosing projects with depth and substance. They've both found success beyond Kiralik Ask, proving they were never defined solely by that moment in time. Yet the fan community keeps the memory alive. Fan-made videos of their Kiralik Ask moments accumulate millions of views. Anniversary posts about the show trend annually. New fans discover the series and immediately fall down the rabbit hole of wondering what happened between the lead actors. The mystique hasn't faded. If anything, the lack of definitive answers has made the story more compelling over time. In 2022, something unexpected happened. At an industry event, Baris and Elcin were both in attendance. It was the first time they'd been in the same room, publicly, in years. Witnesses reported that they were cordial, exchanged brief pleasantries, but maintained distance. There was no dramatic confrontation, but also no warm reunion. It was the interaction of two professionals who shared a past, but had moved on to separate futures. For fans hoping for some spark of the old connection, it was a sobering moment. The most mature perspective might be that what Baris and Elcin shared was real and meaningful for its time, but not meant to last forever. Not every love story gets a fairy tale ending. Sometimes two people can be right for each other in one season of life, but wrong for the next. The intensity that burns brightest often burns out fastest. Perhaps what they had was too intertwined with their work, too exposed to public pressure, too complicated by the very fame that brought them together. There's a scene in Kiralik Ask, near the end of the series, where Defne and Omer talk about how some people come into our lives to teach us, to change us, even if they don't stay forever. Watching it now, it's impossible not to wonder if Elcin and Baris were delivering lines or revealing truth. Art imitating life, or life imitating art, the boundaries had always been blurred for them. What remains is the work they created together. Kiralik Ask continues to attract new audiences, the chemistry between its leads still electric years later. Whatever happened in their personal lives, whatever caused the split that neither has fully explained, cannot diminish what they achieved on screen. They created something beautiful, something that resonated with millions, something that transcended language and culture. The hidden story behind their split may never be fully revealed. Perhaps that's as it should be. Not everything needs to be dissected and analyzed. Some stories belong to the people who live them, and privacy, especially in an age of constant exposure, is a precious thing. What we're left with is the evidence of what was, the interviews, the performances, the moments captured on camera that reveal two people who clearly meant something to each other. For fans who still wonder, who still hope, who still rewatch their scenes searching for clues, maybe the message is this: what Baris and Elcin shared was real enough to captivate millions. It was significant enough to still generate interest years later. But it was also theirs, and they've chosen to keep its most intimate truths private. That choice deserves respect. Today, both actors continue their journeys. They've handled their shared past with remarkable grace, never speaking ill of each other, never exploiting the public's curiosity for attention, maintaining a dignified silence that speaks to their character. They've shown that it's possible to honor what was while embracing what is. The story of Baris Arduc and Elcin Sangu isn't really about a breakup. It's about a moment in time when two talented people found each other, created magic together, and then followed paths that led in different directions. It's about the bittersweetness of beautiful things that don't last. It's about respecting the complexity of human relationships and understanding that sometimes there are no villains, no dramatic betrayals, just two people doing their best to navigate love and career and life under the glare of public scrutiny. If you've followed their story, if you've wondered about the truth behind the headlines, if you felt the ache of watching something beautiful come to an end, share this video with someone who understands. Leave a comment about your favorite Kiralik Ask moment. Subscribe to explore more untold stories from the world of Turkish entertainment. And remember that sometimes the most profound love stories are the ones that teach us to let go with grace.